Hey, everybody, it's Liz from Augusta, and I've been excited all week to bring you someone today who is very special, very accomplished, very young, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. And so, if you could give us your name, where you're from, and what location you're running, a little bit about that, and then we'll jump into some more details.
Yeah, so my name is Connor Hutchison. I'm with Augusta of Huntersville, North Carolina. It's actually one of the corporate locations. I'm a GM here. I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio, and then relocated here this year, the beginning of this year in January, to run this location, one of Mike's locations.
Okay, so you would be considered a corporate location of one of the, I believe it's seven that he owns now.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So that is very interesting and unusual for many of the interviews that we've had before. So it'll be fun to get into some of that. But
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about your background, where you were raised, how many siblings, a little bit about your
sure.
family.
Yeah, you know, raised in Toledo, Ohio, went to school there, grew up whole life. I have one sister and one brother. Sister's in the middle. We're all 3 years apart. Um, my family moved to Nashville, Tennessee, my senior year of high school, and so I had already kind of decided I was going to go to college in Toledo, and so I stayed in Toledo, went to college, graduated with a degree in biology and minor in chemistry. My family moved down there. My siblings went to high school there. They've both graduated now. My brother's entering college this year, and my sister will be a senior in college. And so, um, I after graduation, I decided maybe the medical route wasn't for me. I did a lot. I worked in a like as a director at a medical company, and like I saw how much paperwork there was with being a doctor, and then like thinking about like going like 150 $200,000 into debt, like student loan debt, was stressing me out, and so I kind of just was looking for something to jump into and start making money while I was still trying to decide what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. So I started my own lawn care business, ran that for a year and a half. I'd been watching Mike the entire time. Actually applied via a an Instagram thing he had put out, just a little like a Google forum. Got interviewed by Chuck, and then now we're here.
So you actually interviewed as a GM, not just as an employee for a location.
Correct. Yeah, because these were new locations that they were launching. Um, I know Mike had the one original North Carolina location, Morrisville, and then he started the four new ones all at the same time. Uh, and so they didn't have a super massive pool to pull from. In Augusta, we like to promote from within
Right?
most of the time, but they didn't have a super big pool of people to pull from here. So they had to, kind of go outside of it. And I guess I snuck through somehow.
Yeah, yeah. So backing up a little bit, tell me
Mhm.
a little bit about your parents. They must be really high quality people. What do they both do?
Yeah, they're actually both engineers, which is funny because I have like no mechanical IQ. I know nothing. My mom works for GM. She's a quality engineer there, and then my dad actually he worked for an exhaust company for a long, long time, and now in Nashville, he works for some military company where they test like computer chips, and that's about all I know. Is like he tests the chips, these little computer chips that are like $750,000 that like control missiles and different things like that. So yeah, and my mom's she just transitioned into working on all the battery operated stuff. So like the all the new battery operated cars that like GM's coming out with, they're
Mhm.
the E series different things. So that's what she's doing.
So the focus of your family is definitely to be educated and to
Yeah.
be productive. And so
Yes.
when you were being raised, did you have a parent at home or how did they divide up all of that?
Um, my parents both worked a lot. That's probably where I get like my like just want to work. Like I always want to work. I just watched
Well,
them
it
work very
it
hard.
wasn't something that you thought was negative then. It was something that you admired in your parents.
Yeah, like I can definitely say like I've told many people this that like I want to be like I want to have half the work ethic that my parents have. And so like I don't know, I think they raised me right and taught me like the value of hard work and I see how far it goes. Uh And yeah, and being like detail oriented as well, like with them both being engineers, right? Like you can't just do things halfway, right? Like you need to pay attention to what you're doing. You need to make sure you're doing things properly, especially with my mom being on the quality side of things. Like she is the control for what, like, if there's any ever recalls or anything like that, like, she's the person that's like looking at those types of things.
So people that get to know you, those traits can be very annoying to people that are average, really.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so, how do you take that and try to tame it down when you're talking to people?
hmm
And then you can go when you're alone, you can still put that driving force on yourself.
I definitely something I'm still working on. I probably annoy a lot of people with like my drive and attention to detail and different things like that. Like, you know, like I'm learning a lot, like having to bring a lot of people on and train them right now as
Yeah.
Huntersville scales, and so like starting from just the ground and then slowly having that base is like I just constantly have to remind myself like don't overwhelm them, just
Yes.
like one thing at a time here. And it's better to like for me it's better to like just talk less as I'm getting to know somebody, and then like finally like you got to kind of warm them up.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
makes
So do you
sense.
feel like them watching you then just by being in your presence, you kind of tell them how the task is going to go, but just being with you and watching you, they can sort of emulate your behavior.
Yeah, I'd hope so. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So you see the ad, but that means you had to be devouring Mike's content at some point. So how did you first hear about Mike?
I'd been watching Mike for like 2 years at that point. Like that, I think Mike was the reason that I just chose to get into lawn care because like I knew it was a pretty low barrier to entry skill. My
Right.
dad we had always taken care of our property, right? Like I always helped him around the yard, like lay mulch, mow the lawn, right? Like so all summer, like when I was off in high school and stuff like that, I was the one that was responsible for taking care of the yard. And then when I was in school, it was like had sports and different things like that, but like it was a skill that I knew I had, and so it was very easy for me to um, transition into that. But I I think I just like looked up like how to run a lawn care business because it was one of the few skills that I had. Like I didn't that was outside of like biology and school, sciences and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I didn't want to go be a biology teacher, and I had completed my 4 years, and I didn't really want to like go back to school to get a master's or anything at that point. So I just was like, let's bridge the gap, and found Mike on YouTube, just searching up like lawn care things, and then kind of found lawn care business course and went from there.
So your parents, they're watching you and they know you, they've supported you in your medical career so
hmm
far. And you sounds like you have a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
So how did they feel about this? They're watching you watch Mike,
hmm
and what did they think of Mike? And then what did they think of you actually bowing out of the medical field?
So I don't know that they knew too much about like Mike in the beginning because, like I said, they lived in Nashville at that time, and I was living in Toledo.
Okay.
Post graduation, I had bought a house when I was in college, and
Okay.
so I was living there. Um, and I kind of just told them that like this is what's happening. I've always kind of just been like that. I'm like, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. Uh, and but as far as like the me backing out of the medical thing, I think they were a little disappointed. I think they're
Sure.
finally seeing that there's something bigger here, though.
Yeah.
They were a little disappointed though because they were like, "Oh, you're gonna be the first not like blue collar person in our family," because a lot of my family was engineers. A lot of people worked for GM.
Hmm.
Even though they're high ranking, like they wanted me to be the first doctor. They wanted to have a
Yeah.
doctor in the family, and so I think that was a little bit of a disappointment. But I think they see that it's for the better.
But you had that potential. So their disappointment was understandable because it wasn't like, oh, I'm not smart or I don't have skills and all I'm good for is mowing lawns. They
Right,
knew that there was
right.
more than that in you. And I'm sure
There's
they knew that no matter what you did, you're not going to change.
right.
So you're going to put all that effort into
R-
something.
Right, and there's a lot of smart people in the lawn care industry. I mean, like, look at the entire executive team, yourself, Mike, Chuck, like Lee, like there's a lot of really smart people in this industry.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And I think that that is what Augusta has brought, the professionalism to the industry.
Mhm.
All of these people, you, us, we could go and run different kinds of businesses. We were all in different businesses. And just
Right.
like you, what would you say that the schooling you had so far, let's say you had skipped those 4 years,
Mhm.
would you say that you would be very much different in the way you're running the business that you're in now?
I've
Or do
thought
you
of
think it's benefited you?
I've thought about that a lot. Sometimes I wish I didn't go to college because I'm like I probably would have picked this industry as well, and I would just be
Mm,
4 years farther along, right?
yeah,
Um, like I could have maybe be working on my own second location by now.
right.
Um, but I do think it benefited me. Like I think it taught me some time management because I always worked. I was in sports in college, played soccer. I also worked like full time and was in a moderately hard major. And so, it taught me like balance as well as like hard work and time management. And I think that's one of the things that like has helped me a lot here in Augusta is just time
Mhm.
management and also like acting fast and just getting things done. And like when you're doing like 10 different things like I was doing in college, like you just have to get things done.
Yeah,
So
so
I
do
I
you
think it
believe
helps me
it
grow up.
takes yeah, so stackable skills and
Mhm.
the ability to learn, that part you feel
Right.
like has been beneficial?
It also made me very independent, like, with my family moving away, it's not like I was, like, going to college. I was in my hometown, but, like, my family wasn't there anymore, and so, since I've been 17 years old, I've been on my own, basically, and,
Mhm.
like, I just had to grow up real fast and figure things out and learn how to do things, and I think that helped me, like, mature a lot, like, a lot of times. I feel really young and I have a lot to learn, but then also there's other times when, like, I'm talking to other people my age and I don't feel my age, like, I'm like, that's stuff I was doing when I was like 18, right?
Exactly. I don't know if you heard recently, Mike talking about that, or it might have been one of the newsletters that he puts out.
Mhm.
And that is like you could hang around people your own age, and it's not that you don't have like some connection with them because you were
Right.
good friends, but there's you just kind of part ways just
Mhm.
because you're going different directions.
Yep.
And even though you're same age and you're normally your interests would be the same,
Right.
and it's not a bad parting, but it just has to happen sometimes because there's so much growth happening in you and maybe not so much in them.
Yeah, yeah, some people will say it's change, other people will call it growth. And sometimes the common ground goes away, but it doesn't mean that like everything like that you can't still be friends or you can't like reconnect, but sometimes the common ground changes, so.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So, how do you feel like the teamwork affected you when you were in college? You played sports. Do you
Mhm.
think that matters at all in the way you're training your teams?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, t- being a part of a team is a massive thing, right? So we run in two-man squads, two people per truck, and like that's one of the big things that like I tell people, right? Is like you have to hold each other accountable because like if we get a yellow slip, if we get a return to property or like return to property because the client called in and there was an issue, it's on both of you, right? Like I expect you both to hold each other accountable. And when I'm mowing with people and like even when I'm training people, like I'm like if you see something like I'm just mowing with you right now. Like, tell me because like I don't want to have to return to this property, right? It's not like I'm not above you here. You're not above your coworker. Like, we're all on the team. We have the same mission, right? The mission is to like let's just make a bunch of money, be efficient with our time, and go home. And if you're not going to be a team player and hold your coworkers accountable, then you know it can cause like issues, and you'll have to return.
Were you a captain on your teams?
In high school I was, yeah. Not in college, but in high school of my club teams. Yep.
And then you mentioned that you were a manager at the company you were, some sort of lead.
Yeah, yeah. So I was a director. It was a medical scribing company, so we took notes for doctors, and I oversaw, I think it was like 70 or 75 scribes. Like I was their direct report. These were people that were working with the doctors. I did all their scheduling, all that type of stuff.
And were they in-house or were they virtual at that time?
It was all in person, so it was all around the University of Toledo. We would go to the hospitals around there, and the doctors, like the scribes, would follow them into rooms, take notes on the patients, and complete their charts for them. Because there's a lot of that's actually where I saw, like, as I continued to work there more and more, I saw like just how much like time it is spent doing paperwork and not actually treating people like I used to think it was. Like I thought you just I know Mike kind of talked about that,
Yeah.
and it's funny. Like when he went to Africa, I believe it was. He's like,
Mhm.
this is medicine. This is treating people. This is helping people." And then you get here, and like did a lot of shadowing in ERs, and like we spent 80% of our time in the center office cubicle, just like filling out things, trying to get things approved for people, like a million hoops to jump through. And it was like there was no like it was like only 20% in person patient time.
Mhm. So how did you manage these 75 people? That, Jocko even talks about the amount that somebody can actually manage. And in war,
Sure.
to be responsible for maybe 5 people, but even like 6 to 10 is a lot. So how did you strategize that?
It was a lot. Just like broke it down by like offices, the different office locations. So like I would break it down into small groups, and then also I was responsible for like, at least once a semester had to like meet up with the people. Whether it was like, met them in the library at the school, because like we were all students at the time. Uh, you know, there was also some grad students, people that were older than me, but would either meet them there or meet them at our office or wherever, and then just kind of like broke them up into small groups. It definitely was a lot to manage, though. Like I don't like it was an unmanageable amount of people, if that
Yeah, for
makes
sure.
sense.
Oh yeah, totally. I totally get it.
It was also a lot of like really high performers. Like these are all people that just want to go to med school, and like once they're trained up, like we had like people that would train them, and trainers they could also reach out to if they had any like specific questions on that office and different things like that. Their doctor was kind of like, their lead point, and then we had somebody that communicated with all the doctors as well, so that way we could keep touches on people, right? If like anybody's starting to slip through the cracks or needs retraining or anything like that. So we had multiple points of like contact and like making sure that like things were staying good.
Mhm. And who was your direct report that you answered back to?
I answered to the CEO, so there was like three of us. The one person, there was me, another guy, Sam, who he talked with all the doctors and such, and then Hannah, who did all of our marketing. But Hannah and I were both in at the University of Toledo, so lots of the students could talk with us.
Mhm. Where do you think you would have gone if you had stayed there?
I'd
Would that
probably
have just been a position while you were going to college?
Yeah, just while I was in college, I probably would have. At one point I had thought about like not pursuing the medical field and just staying in that business and helping him
Mhm.
grow that and like start franchising and growing across the country. Um, Prior to that, it was uh, just to go to med school, and then I wanted to be an anesthesiologist or an ER doctor.
Mhm. So being under someone, the CEO and others, that has probably made it pretty easy for you to be under a regional manager, knowing that the regional manager is then under the CEO and how that chain of command goes with him
hmm
answering back.
It that job definitely taught me a lot. I think it's helped me work a lot better with Chuck. Like I definitely wasn't the best at communication then when I was working with the medical company, and
Mhm.
so it taught me tenfold. Like how to just be a better communicator and how to like work with um, people above and below you on the ladder.
Mhm. There might be guys that are actually out there and they have their own lawn care business and they've been listening to the content for years maybe, and
Mhm.
they think it's impossible to maybe even jump into Augusta somewhere, even as an employee or a GM, and you came straight in as a GM. So when Mike announced that he was hiring some GMs, what did that ad look like, or was it just verbal when he was online somewhere doing an ad?
I'm pretty sure he had mentioned something in like a YouTube video, like potentially needing new people. And then I went to his Instagram, and I forget if it was like a just a link I copied out of the um like his like comment on the Instagram, or if it was in his bio or something. Clicked on it, and it just took me to a Google form, and I filled it out there. And I didn't know where it was going to be at. I didn't know if I would be even like if I'd even be able to like apply for that. I didn't know if I would become just an employee or a general manager, but I knew that I wanted to get into Augusta. Even though I had my own business and I had
Yeah.
40 or 45 recurring customers, I did like 70K that year.
Wow.
Uh, like after a year and a half, and I felt like that was pretty decent, but
Yeah.
we're crushing that now,
Yeah.
and it's only been 5 months since then. And like I knew that to some people it might have felt like a setback, but like I would encourage people to get inside of systems like this, like get inside of Augusta or like whatever industry you are in. Get inside of something where it's like already proven, like the path has already been cleared for me. And so like now I can run 10 times faster because I know what to do. And like so hopefully this next month will do half of the revenue I did last year in total in 1 month though.
Awesome. Well, we'll get to that.
Sure.
But what do you think in your application? What was it that caught their attention, you think?
I think it was the medical job and just being a director there. I had a really good boss, and he helped me out a lot. And I know when Chuck called him, and he spoke with him, he said Chuck said he that I kind of reminded him of Mike in the fact that like I'd completed my degree in biology, minor in chemistry, and like, and I think that helped me stand out. Plus the fact that I had a small lawn care business that I'd ran for a year and
Right.
a half, that also helped me stand out because like he knew there was going to be zero to very minimal training on any equipment or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure. So then was it Chuck that interviewed you, I'm assuming?
yes, yep. And that happened very fast. He messaged, so I applied. I didn't realize like how fast this was going to happen. So I applied. Then yeah, like
Welcome to
with
Augusta. We move fast.
right. Yeah, this was my first taste of it, like how
Yeah.
fast Augusta moves. So within 24 hours, I think it was, Chuck reached out to me. Then we set up, it was like that next day, we set up an interview for the very next morning. I interviewed him. He called all my I interviewed him. He interviewed me
Yeah.
at like 8 a.m. He called my references. Then he texted me. He said, "Hey, like, can you set up like let's set up a second interview? Kind of like square some things away." We did that at like 11 or 12, so like 3 or 4 hours later, and then he sent me the job offer. And by that night, it was like from me applying on Mike's post to
Mm.
signing the job offer was like 36 hours. And then like 24 hours later, it was Friday afternoon, and my fiance and I were driving down here to look at apartments. It was,
Phenomenal. So
yeah,
you were in Ohio, right?
yep,
Is that
yep,
correct?
yes,
And you told him you would be willing to move?
yep. And that was like a big, I don't know, because then I was like, how do I shut down my business, and like, how do I do these types of things? And so I had to
Right.
figure all that out.
And how did your fiance feel about this?
She was down for it. I got really lucky. She
That's good.
I kind of just like sprung it on her. Sometimes I do have like these grand big ideas, and like she was totally for it, and so that was awesome.
All right. So she already knew the tendencies you have and that you're already like that. Why
Yeah.
didn't she think it was just another one of your big ideas? Had she been hearing Mike
Yeah, she knew that I watched Mike like, you know, I'm
incessantly?
yes, yeah, like Mike and Alex Hermosi were like on my
Yeah.
TV, on my phone, like on YouTube, like all the time. And so like she knew about it, and she knew about Augusta.
Yeah.
And I knew that like she knew that I wanted to franchise. And I was like, and being a business owner, like it's scary at times. Like, you don't have a guaranteed, like you can't guarantee you're going to be able to pay yourself, right? Because you need to pay your guys, you need to pay for equipment, things happen. And like she knew that like this was going to be nice to have like a guaranteed salary and
Mhm.
learn the systems. And then after 2 years I get the 3F program. And like it was going to be a small step back for a bigger long-term play.
For sure. And did she have a job that she needed to give notice for?
Yeah, she did, and she thought she was gonna be able to go virtually with it, but they ended up not letting her do that, so she's actually doing real estate down here now, which is awesome.
Nice.
Yep.
So, how did you guys meet?
We met in college. She actually graduated same exact degree as I did. We went to high school together too. She transferred into high school like my junior year. She was on the dance team with my sister, like when my sister was there for, she was there for like one semester of her freshman year. And so that's kind of how I knew of her. But then we both went to college together and we're in all the same classes. And then that's kind of, how things happened.
So she understood you, like she was of the same fiber.
Yes. Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
love it. I
She's
love
so
it.
smart.
So she was able to just pick up, but with something new and do the same thing you've done, just be 100% into something else.
Yep.
Awesome. So now we get into the fun stuff, and that is actually what you're doing now. So are you saying that you were only hired by Chuck 5 months ago?
Yeah. Yep. So hired in December. So I guess 6 months ago. Hired in December. Um, then January I went to conference and I didn't start anything until February. February then we went out to training, and then this location's only been open since like March 1st or whatever it was, like that first week of March right after we got back from training in February.
So for those who don't know, how many locations opened at the same time?
There was 4 locations that opened that were Mike's corporate locations that opened here. I forget how big my training class was though. It was maybe 30 people. It was a
It
big
was a
one.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was our biggest. And so just so the listeners know, you're in North Carolina
hmm By
and
Charlotte.
by Charlotte. Okay. And then how are the locations? Are they like all right up against each
Yep.
other? How
Yep.
they laid out?
So it's like basically like Legos, like puzzle pieces. Like we just pick a couple main roads and that divides like all the territories. And so we're all in North Charlotte, like we kind of built off of the Mooresville, just like one like right down from the other, and then like there's one that's over, which is Concord, and then in South Charlotte is where Mike just started that new location that he had his 30-day challenge for.
Okay. So you came to Augusta, you become the GM, and then you haven't even started yet, and you come to Summit. And
hmm
what was that like for you?
Oh, it was awesome. I knew I was right where I needed to be. I remember texting my fiance and texting my parents. I was like, this is my lane. This is where I'm supposed to be. It felt awesome. I can't wait for the next summit.
I am so glad that you got to come to that at the beginning.
I think that helped a lot. I genuinely do like, and if anybody's watching this and is like hesitant on Augusta, you need to go to Summit. Like that will
Definitely.
it will like it wakes you up, it gives you some fire, like oh yeah. And it's awesome to meet everybody and network with people, right? And I think that helped a little bit because it helped me connect with other people that weren't just in my training class. So I
Right.
got to meet a couple Augusta people, sat at the tables with and talked to a bunch of different franchisees that were already in Augusta. And so like it helped me. I think it gave me a big leg up.
Yeah. And when you were there, our whole goal is to change the professionalism in the industry.
Mhm.
And did you feel like you were sitting at a lawn care
Oh,
conference?
oh no, no, not like a lawn care. It felt very professional.
Yeah.
Felt very high level.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what I get out of it too. We started so humble and so small, and it's scaled huge in the last few years because we moved so fast.
I wish I could have seen like the previous year's conferences, from like where it was started. I know it was like mentioned and I've seen like some pictures and stuff like that, but like the scale it is now and like this coming year, oh, it's going to be
Mhm.
crazy.
And Mike did it all by himself. He was doing the lights, he was doing the sound. We
Mhm.
had one photographer, but he was running the whole thing where the photographer should sit. Then he
Mhm.
should turn on the music. And he's like, now you turn on the music. He picked the music. Like when people see what it is now, we never forget the days of humble beginnings.
Yeah.
And we've never lost that humbleness because we're very aware of where we've come from.
It was very professional, like the production, everything was like very like streamlined, like professional camera people, lighting, the stage, like it was awesome.
Yeah, so you're a GM. So
Mhm.
GMs and owners are the ones who come to training. So then after that, you came to training in January. And what was that experience
February, I
like? Or
think. Yep.
February. Okay. What was that experience like?
That was fun. It was fun to be back out there, and then got to see the two locations that are out there. You know, Mount Vernon, Bellingham, and see like kind of how they're set up, how they're run. You know, like what a location can become, like Bellingham. You know, like this is possible. You can get this big, and so that was cool to see. And then also just like going through all the fine details, like all that we learned in training it was very helpful, like tenfold. Definitely, like that's one of the reasons that like this business is going to do what it's going to do now compared to like what I did last year, because like nothing's changed like with me other than learning all of the Augusta systems and everything that you guys
Right.
taught me at training.
So the actual work itself, they've left it up to you to kind of how you're going to structure your day and set everything up because you did that before.
Yep,
Yeah. So all the equipment, there's nothing different except maybe brands to you, right?
exactly. Yeah, I mean it's like still just making tall grass short, but like now there's some organization to it, and
What was
and
this?
and it's yellow.
Yes, exactly. What was your setup like previously? Did you have a trailer?
Yep, yep, and I used a trailer. I knew about the ramp racks, of course, from Mike's videos, and like that was something that like I was always looking to get. The ramp rack is incredibly useful. I ran out of my house, like the house that I had. I had a detached, pretty big garage that we just ran out of. Me and one other person, and then actually, I take that back. At the end, I had two employees. But yeah, we just ran out of there, and you know, did things. I mean, bare bones.
Right. So right from the beginning, you had a position of leadership, knowing when you came to training, you had to think so different. You couldn't think as if I'm an employee under someone. You were thinking like this whole weight is on me, like I'm an owner, right?
From the beginning, I've taken this like it's my own location. Like I know it is Mike's location, but like I'm acting like it's my own. Like I feel like it's my own, genuinely do. And so like totally took that role of like ownership.
Mhm. So they've given you the autonomy to run it the way you feel like you should. And then are you able to spend monies the way you'd like to, or do you need to get approval for every little purchase you make?
Nope, no. Chuck, has full faith in us. Like we can spend money basically to like repair things or to order more uniforms, like however, he says just do it, and we go over our P&Ls, and we make sure we're not like overspending on this or underspending on that. And I mean, that's I can't speak for all the other GMs, and maybe that's because like coming in, like I had some experience like running the
Right.
lawn care business, so I kind of know like, oh, you need this or you need that, and you don't need that and you don't need that. Like, so maybe it's not the same for every GM, but like there's never been any like breaks, applied for
Hmm.
me. So,
And then did you put the job out yourself for employees?
yep, yep. So like started in the beginning, it was just me, then hired, and then just kept hiring, and now we're up to a four-man team.
Nice. And did you lose a lot of people after you hired them?
Yes, yeah. I thought it was crazy that the average like length of employment is like 2 weeks in the lawn care industry, because like the two guys that I worked with in Toledo were like, one was my best friend and another was a high school kid that I hired for the summer, and I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I think I have like there's four employees currently, and I think we've gone through probably like 20 people this year, so it's crazy.
It changes the whole structure of how you think about employees,
Hmm.
employment, and the whole crushing feeling of like, what did I do wrong?
Yep.
Um, the whole trajectory of how you change happens in a short period of time because your
Yes.
first feelings of when you lost that first one, did you feel like it was your fault, or were you thinking you are such a lazy whatever?
No. Yeah, like the first employee I hired with Augusta, I had to let him go because like he simply wasn't getting it quick enough. Like, and I knew that it was going to hinder my growth. Like, I was like, This is legitimately going to take me like 3 months to get him trained
Mhm.
up to become efficient and to be able to run his own crew. And so like after like 3 weeks, I was like I can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
Um, and that felt crushing because like I tried to
Yeah.
have conversations like you need to have a little bit of drive, but then I still feel like I let him down. Like like it never feels great. to have to like let somebody go. And then there's been other people that like a lot of that like I would say probably 7 or 8 of those 20 people were people that couldn't even show up on time on their first
Right.
day, and they were let go. Like we have to hold some kind of standard, and
Right.
our team gets paid on performance, and I'm not going to make them wait around. And if you can't show up on time on your first day, if you're going to be 15 minutes late on your first day, when I'm like really clear when I'm texting you like, "Hey, please be early tomorrow. Start time is 7:30, but I recommend being there way before that." And then you're gonna call me at 7:35 and say you're 10 minutes away, like I'm not gonna do that to my team.
So
So
when you got those texts, did you say don't bother coming, or did you
yeah,
have to wait
I
for them
just
to stay?
I said go ahead, go home. It's we're okay. We don't need you. So I'll work Saturday if I need to. You know.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing for people is if they're short on help and they really know they should let somebody go, or they're in
Mhm.
that situation and you say, come on anyway.
Mhm.
As somebody who's hired and fired a lot of people, it is to your advantage to have the thought process that you did. And I'll work Saturday myself if I have to. I'm not
Yep.
bringing this person on. It becomes dead weight. And
Yes.
it's a mistake if you let them come on. And most people would say, I just need a body. It's not true. You're better off without that body.
Right, because they can ruin the culture and they can bring everybody else down very, very fast. Like it can disintegrate like that.
What was it like when you told the other guys, I told him just to go back home? Are they bummed out? Like, hey, no, we needed them. Or did the respect they had for you go up?
I think they felt both. Like, you know, I think sometimes like they're like dang, that's kind of cruel. But I'm like, you were here on time and like
Exactly.
you're loaded up already and you want to leave. I'm not gonna make you wait. Like, so I think they respected it, like, and they appreciate it because they
Mhm.
want to make as much money as possible. But then at the same time, they're like, wow, like didn't even get like one chance. But like initial impressions are everything, right? Like it's same
Yeah.
with interviews. Like I don't hang around for interviews if you're going to be late. I got things to do. So,
Yep. Especially on an interview. If you can't show up on time, leave enough time to get lost
yep,
and find your way back.
yep,
It's definitely not worth it. So
right,
I've had people ride the bus and they got there a little late, and it's like, sorry,
right, right.
you've taken the bus before. Like, be on time.
Yep, figure it out.
Yeah. And so, do you require them to have cell phones and license also and speak English?
Yep, yep, all of that. I had one employee that didn't have his license. It was, you know, he was the fourth team member. Actually, he was just let go for talking inappropriately to some clients, and that's another thing that we won't tolerate. That is not professional at all. But so we've had one employee that didn't have his license, but other than that, yeah, everybody licensed, speak English. You got to have a smartphone to be able to see your schedule. Just some pretty basic, requirements.
Right.
And we run in two-man crews, so because we're still smaller, and eventually you get more trucks and you can have the solo routes, and that's when the guys make the most on P for P. But you know, as you're smaller and growing, like you have to be in two-man teams.
Mhm. How was it for you going from the trailer to just the trailerless setup? Did you have difficulty with that, or do you think that it's more efficient?
Way more efficient, so much
Even with
easier.
bigger lawns?
Um, so we don't have a ton of huge like lawns around here. I mean, it's super nice to get into the neighborhoods in Huntersville specifically. Like this area, of Charlotte, super up and coming, tons of new build neighborhoods. Houses are jammed together, and so very easy to get in and get out, and park in between people's driveways. Like a lot of times, you wouldn't even be able to fit a truck and a trailer
Right.
in between people's driveways without blocking like two driveways. So
And so you have push mowers. Are they what, 21 inches, or do you have the
we
big ones?
Yep. So we have our equipment is we have a 21-inch residential push mower, just like the 450 $500 one, whatever, something like that. Um, we didn't want to spend the 2.5 grand on the big 30-inch ones because we have a 36-inch stand on that
Got
gets into
it.
most of our gates. Most of the people's backyards can do almost all of the properties. We don't have anything bigger than a 36-inch mower. That's why we don't have a lot of those bigger properties. There are some bigger ones that like we just get priced out of because it would take us so long to cut it, but that's okay
Mhm.
because I want the small tight ones that are in those cookie cutter new build neighborhoods.
Right. So if you have a two-man crew, are you bringing the 36-inch and the 21 each time? They both fit on there, and you don't bag clippings, right?
Nope, and we don't have to bag clippings luckily around here. Oh yeah, that's really nice because I
But if
did
you
that in
saw
Toledo.
Mike's videos, you saw that he did that.
I did that in Toledo, and oh man, it's like I'm like, this is a cakewalk. Like I don't understand how like
Yeah.
people don't crush P for P. Like because I tried to implement like budgeted hours in my business and different things like that, and like I was pricing low because I was just trying to grow, and bagging clippings just is brutal.
Yeah. So that's great. So that works for you then to have two guys, and it's still efficient with the
Yep.
two mowers on there.
Yep. So they can use both if like you can't get into a gate, or if there's a small like section between the houses or any areas that are wet, you don't want to put the big mower on it, so you just push mow it, and then the other guys are weed eating, edging, blowing things off.
So did they know that the goal is to eventually have more trucks and to go solo for each of them?
Down the road, I don't know that I've talked to them specifically, like the team specifically, about being solo in their trucks, and maybe that is a good thing. They all know that like this is a new location, and like the goal is growth, like just grow,
Mhm.
grow, grow. Um, and then by next year, like we want to be above that $500,000 mark, you know, and put it in profit mode for a year or two, let it build up, and then maybe go to that million.
How many of them knew about Augusta and were listening to the content before? None, or did you get some of them because of that?
Uh, Recently, I think Mike's content's been really blowing up. Maybe the shorts or something like that, because we've had a big influx of people applying through our website. Um, I say big influx, but I
More.
mean more people.
Yeah.
And all of those people have been pretty quality people. Like because they already know about Augusta,
Yeah.
and I would say they're much better applicants than the people I'm finding on Indeed, because they know what they're getting into
Right.
just by watching his content. Yeah, I
That's
forget.
pretty
Was there
cool.
another part of that question?
Just how are they coming, and is it because they were listening to content
Yep,
already?
yep. So it's a mix. I would say maybe 30% know about Augusta.
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking that is because there's people that watch that they are listening to the content. They love to get in somehow.
Hmm.
There's only so many GM positions, but
Right.
if they can get in as an employee, they
Hmm.
have the opportunity to move up. And sometimes it can happen just like that if somebody loses their GM.
It did, and as you saw, if anybody watched the Mike's 30-day challenge, like you saw, so the new GM of South Park actually came from my location. He had no experience in the lawn care industry, found us, and then within it was actually on his 1 month of employment with Augusta, he became the GM of the new location. It was crazy.
Unbelievable.
We've
Mind
thrown
blowing.
Chandler's a boss. We threw him into the deep end, and he is swimming. So
He is.
I'm very impressed with that guy.
He is. So South Park is everybody's heard about the co-pilot that we're
Hmm.
using, and South Park has been our guinea pig for Augusta.
Yep.
We ran co-pilot throughout Mike's whole 30 days, and part of it was with one of the GMs, Terrence, who now moved to one of your other locations
Yep.
close by. It's kind
Yep.
of cool how that worked out. And then I've been working with Chandler now, running co-pilot. So not only did he have to jump out of service autopilot, he had to jump straight over to a whole nother CRM just like that.
Right as he was, I joked with him about that. Right as he was starting to get service autopilot under, like really understand, all of that, like skipping jobs, clocking in and out of everything, and just all the different things of service autopilot. Right to Copilot. Have you found that was like really good for like patching any holes for Copilot as like Augusta's gonna switch and different things like that? Like what has been your guys' experience with
Yeah, so
seeing?
I am somebody who's like a little bit on the outside in the way that I'm watching Mike
Hmm.
and I'm watching him work with the developers, right? I hear
Hmm.
all the back behind the scenes, the frustrations, the bugs, or whatever. And I put myself in the place like if I was one of those people at service autopilot, no power, and I'm watching the people at the top and they're supposed to be listening and taking all these bugs. It's
Hmm.
happening just like that with Augusta and Copilot. Like
Hmm.
we can do one day in Copilot and we're like, we're not seeing this. Okay, the devs are working on it. The next day
Yeah.
we have it. These are
Right.
features like that we
Right.
want. So those of us that have worked in Service Autopilot, there's things that I love. I love Service Autopilot because I've learned all the workarounds after all these years and
Sure.
really, really love it.
Yeah.
And so to me, I would be apprehensive about going to another CRM because I already have worked with this one for 5, 6 years. And I've seen how far they've come, even though it's slow, but I've learned all the workarounds. So to actually have Copilot without those workarounds
Right.
is awesome. I love it. I love Copilot with every little bug. It's like I told Mike, it's when things used to go wrong with Service Autopilot and I'd be in the middle of something and it was frozen. I'd
Hmm.
be like, oh, it's frozen. And
Yeah.
then I would just go start working on something else
Right.
and then come back and hope that I can route and dispatch these guys.
Right.
And
Yeah.
sometimes you can't, and you're manually putting 100 mows in order.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
I've
been
had my I've had my fair share of things with like learning Service Autopilot. It wasn't as terrible as like a lot of people like made it seem like it would be,
Mhm,
but there's definitely a lot of things, and like I am super excited for the Copilot and integrations with P4P and all of the, the AI stuff that's in it, and
mhm.
the KPI cockpit and different
Yeah.
things like that.
I
I'll
think it
just
depends on your mentality because it's like I told Mike last night, I said, I'm in there working yesterday. I'm helping Chandler. He's finishing estimates, clicking
Mhm.
complete. They're coming into me. I'm doing the estimates. We're having them out in minutes.
Right.
And so I'm in the middle of this and this thing pops up and it says fatal error. I don't even feel alarmed. Like I'm
Sure.
like,
Oh,
oh,
because
fatal error, fatal error. I'm going
right.
to go out into something else. And my co-pilot guys, they're gone. They might be gone for the day,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And I'm just like, oh, not worried. I'm not even going to say anything to Mike. And I wait a minute and I jump back in and it refresh my page and I'm
It's
fine.
good. Yeah.
So there's never going to be any panic for me because I've had service autopilot.
Right. That's true.
And I'm happy even if there's errors or bugs or whatever. The process has been awesome. And so I'm proud of Chandler. But I have
Yeah.
to say that kudos to you. He would not have been able to do this unless you had been his mentor. So tell me a little bit about that relationship.
Um, like so we have like Chandler really stuck out to me when I saw him doing this. So we give employees bonuses for getting Google reviews. Simply if you get a Google review with your name mentioned in it, it's $50 if it's an existing customer of ours. And like he took that and ran. Like I have like all year like harped on people like, hey, like let's do this. Like it's the easiest money you'll ever make, and I want to get our Google reviews up, right? Like it's helping us both. It's $50 every single review. And he just like he's this is the only time I've ever seen this. Like I can get reviews, right? But I've never gotten two from the same household. He got both the husband and the wife to leave him a
Wow.
review. And like if you put him on a project, it was a guaranteed Google review. 5-star Google review every single time. It was like the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. So like I'd love to take credit, but it genuinely like he's just a good like go-getter, you
Mhm.
know.
So
So
when he would get those reviews, just for the listener's sake, was he doing final walkthroughs every time with the client?
yep, yep, that's part of the professionalism. That's something we believe in. Um, Knock on the door when you're finishing up, and if you're not going to finish the project that day, the household that he got the two Google reviews in, they came through before he even finished the project. Also, mind you, he had to go back the next morning, and he had like 2 or 3 hours worth of work left, and our mulch supplier was closed, so he couldn't finish it that night. And he got these reviews, but he did a walkthrough, showed him like, hey, like this is where I'm at, like I got to finish this tomorrow. Then he came back the next morning, finished it up, walked around again with them, showed them everything, made sure they liked it, and then on to the next thing.
I think that's a vital point that you bring up there to not just leave if the job's not done yet.
Hmm.
Customers seem to panic if that happens.
They do.
And this happened this week with Chandler because it was 4th of July.
Mm,
So he had done a project and it wasn't done yet because he needed more mulch. And he
hmm.
said, if they're open on 4th of July, I'll come and finish, but they
Yeah.
won't. So if he hadn't actually talked to the customer and said, I will be back tomorrow if I can
Right.
get mulch, Otherwise, it'll be the next day. I wasn't getting emails that were saying, is he coming back?
Yep.
I was getting emails from that customer saying, does this include the backyard? Because they had a door hanger,
Mhm.
and the front yard is looking really great. And
Nice.
so I was able to say he couldn't get mulch,
Mhm.
just reiterating what he said and back him up because I know he did that.
Right. Yep.
And so if it's the systems that work, and if I didn't have confidence in him and the system, then I would have been explaining that to the customer and
Sure.
telling them it's okay, he's coming back, which left it 2 days because they had to skip 4th of July.
Mhm. Yeah.
But having the whole team, I don't have to like check around.
Yep.
I didn't have to with him and bother him and say, hey, did you let the customer know you're going to come back?
I think that's a massive thing is just communication, like with the clients, right? You want to communicate with your team and relay expectations, right? And you want them to be able to communicate with you when there's problems, but like why not communicate with the customer, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of them worry because their house is their, their largest asset, and like they see that every single day, and so like they want things to be done right, and they also everybody wants things done now, you know?
Mhm.
So
What's your policy about smoking, chewing, all of that on the job?
none of it. No, no drugs, no smoking, none of that. Um, like I don't even want to see it. Like you can't be wearing Augusta, like not after you're off, not before you start. Like you don't smoke at the shop, none of it.
And
Vaping,
what
none of it.
about uniforms themselves? Are you pretty strict about how they look?
Yep, yep. Like we had a guy had a small rip in his shirt right here. Something got it snagged, got him a new shirt. Like we typically charge the guys $5 for shirts, $10 for sweatshirts, even though it costs us more than that. But
Mhm.
that's something I learned from Chuck was, I'm gonna be more generous with the uniforms because I want my people looking good, and I want that professionalism.
You probably don't know the story of why we started charging 5, $10
Is it just because they like were leaving them everywhere?
everywhere. I
Yeah.
was cleaning out their trucks and I would have 3 sweatshirts. The sweatshirts are $50.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I'm having pulling out buckets of like shirts and everything. And where we live, it's cold in the morning and it
Hmm.
doesn't warm up till 60, 70 later in the day. So it's happening all the time. And then as soon as I did the $10, $5, that problem all went away. And it's hardly any money, $5, $10.
It's not, yeah, and it costs
And
us more,
so,
but
yeah,
it gets them to stay accountable and keep their stuff.
yeah, I know Chuck as a uniform guy. So
Oh yeah,
I'm sure he passed that on to everybody below him.
big time uniform.
Yeah. So
Right.
now there's 5 locations there. They all have a GM.
Hmm.
Chandler got thrown in, and so now has it been 2 weeks even that he has
I think.
been a GM at a location.
Yep. Yep.
So
Since like that last week of June.
we had one location that started Mooresville. Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think this is their third year.
And what kind of revenue are they making?
They're doing like 45, I believe,
A month?
somewhere. Yes, a month. Yep. So
And how many
they're
employees do they have?
I think they have the general manager and 3 guys.
Okay. Okay,
Yep.
so that gives the listener an idea
They have
of.
two really like rock star guys up there, and their GM's really good too. I know that. So,
So would you say they're in growth mode still?
no, they've taken it pretty easy as far as like the marketing and stuff like that goes. Doing door hangers because we saw really good returns in our market with that. But, um, I mean, I think they're growing organically, but definitely focusing on profit. They're for sure in profit mode.
Okay, and your location, this is your first spring. So you
Hmm.
just had your first spring rush.
Yep.
And what are you doing in terms of marketing and revenue?
Um, we're doing tons of marketing. We were doing Google. Lot in the beginning, we were doing some EDDM, the every door direct mail, and then tons of door hangers. We're just like pounding the pavement with door hangers. We haven't done a campaign for EDDM in probably a month and a half now, and we're turning off our Google ads. Just doing tons of door hangers, and then also I was doing door to door sales. When I see the schedule getting a little thin, I'm not
Mhm.
afraid to knock on some doors and just like hard close people right there, and that helps me get a lot of work on the schedule. And then for revenue, we did just over 30,000 in June.
Um,
according to SA,
yeah.
and then the goal is like 36 this month, 20% increase. Just keep going up, and typically this is the time of year where it slows down a little bit, but
Right.
we have tons of momentum, and so I think that we can just keep increasing that.
Yeah. So a couple questions about that. Did Chuck let you set your goal for the season?
Yeah, they've been very Chuck and Mike have been very like, you know, there's gonna be minimums that you need to hit and places you need to be at. But other than that, like go for it. Like if you want to run and take it to 800,000, a million, in 2, 3 years, like go for it. And then we each month we base our next month, like him and I, we set a goal, right? So
Mhm.
we want at least like 35 this month. Last month we wanted to be closer to 35, but over 30 is still good. I forget. I think we did like 25 the month before that, 17 the month before that. Um, so we just keep moving it down a little bit.
So, with all this transition in between, is there a benefit of having all these locations close? So, when they're swapping out a GM like that and moving people around,
Hmm.
everybody's having to train, and it's a little cabobulated for a little bit.
Yeah.
And do you guys jump from different locations just to support in these times?
So we as GMs, we do. We don't swap employees.
Okay.
Like an employee is an employee of that location. That creates an accounting nightmare, right?
Hmm.
So like we very much try to avoid that. In the very beginning of the year, there was a video on Mike's channel. One of the GMs was injured, cut his leg with the hedge trimmer, and so like I went and did a little bit of work for him because I had a little bit of free time. Right, I had a guy or two at that time. We were able to get all our work done, and so I think it was like Friday. I went and finished up a couple mows for him. Um, when Terrence got switched over to Concord. So we have three of the locations running out of the shop that's at Huntersville.
Okay.
And so I see him, every morning, every night, if we're wrapping up at the same time. But, that first week that he was up here from South Park, we worked on different things, and, went through like service autopilot and stuff like that because he did the opposite of Chandler, where he was in Copilot, starting to learn that. And then now he got switched to service
Yes.
autopilot because that's what this location's running for the remainder of the year.
So, a quality of somebody that comes to Augusta and starts to get trained, do you feel like they have to be somebody who can be detached enough to pivot easily?
Yeah, you have to be able to like, I mean, you have to be in tune with like what's going on. I don't know that I would say detached, but like, definitely have to be able to pivot easily. You have to be able to go with the flow, and you have to be able to act fast. I think like,
Yeah, I
just
guess I mean by instead of honing down on your little
oh
thing, to
yeah,
keep an eye on the big picture. So, Mike
yes.
does masterminds every day. Do you think that's really important for somebody to be listening to?
s- Crucial. That was like one of the first things I did before I even came to conference. I think that gave me a leg up. And then in between, so I watched a few of those, like right when I got added to the Facebook group in the end of December. And then between conference and training, I watched like 4 months in rewind. So I knew like all that had been happening in Augusta for the last 4 months. I don't understand how you would know what's happening in Augusta without
Mhm.
watching the Mike's minutes, and not to mention just the level of knowledge and the problem solving, and like you can learn from other people, right? It's like the yellow
Right,
slip system. We want our employees to learn from each other. Why wouldn't you learn from another business, from another franchise that might
sure.
be going through this issue right now? They're having this problem. Well, let's make sure that that doesn't happen here at Huntersville.
Hmm. Going back to some of your advertising, door hangers seem so old fashioned.
Yeah.
And I even heard somebody that was kind of watching the series and they were just in our community and they're like, Mike is just experimenting. And I'm thinking, we have done this so many times.
Oh yeah.
And, door hangers are so old fashioned. Nobody does that before. And some people in the comments said that. And I thought they haven't been listening long because
Mhm.
they would realize there's all this success in other kinds of marketing. And we're trying this again. Do you feel like it's the way the door hangers are set up?
I mean, definitely the door hanger templates are very nice, like the instant quote, and then just the designs that Mike has and the media team sells, are super super nice. Uh, I to the person that says like door hangers are, old school and like that they don't work, that's fine. I have 150 reoccurring mowing customers, and I think maybe 30 to 40 of them have came from Google. Like
Yeah,
in all
crazy.
s- in all seriousness, like 2/3 of the customers
But what's
have
different
came from
about
door
them is
hangers.
we have Instacart, we have Instagram, and we have InstaQuotes.
Yes.
And so you're actually quoting the job though.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so like you can write right on there. Um, just put the price in, and then like I was talking about, we have a lot of cookie cutter neighborhoods. This is gonna
I
blur
see. So
itself.
that is so the bottom is a weed, like a property cleanup weeding. The
Yep.
next one up is a mulch install. And
Yep.
above that one's kind of in pin, so a little bit hard to see. What are the prices on that? That's a weekly and biweekly mow.
Yep. That one's actually printed on there, so they now have
Oh,
it
okay.
where you can order them with these filled in, because like when
Smart.
we get into these cookie cutter neighborhoods, a lot of them are like they're going to be the same price to mow. If you lose $1 or two here or you gain $1 or two there, it all evens out over time. Your routes are going to be so dense. I
Mhm,
feel like I have pretty dense routes, and I've been really lucky with that. And a lot of that comes from the door hangers, and
mhm.
a little bit from the EDDM, I would say too.
So even you using the door hangers in this last month, and Mike, when he was doing his 30-day challenge, we've made revisions to it.
Hmm.
And one of them is we're asking the customers to circle what they want.
Yes.
Because what we do is ask the customer to send a picture. So you put it on the door, we
Hmm.
ask them to take a picture, and we assume the sale. So when they send us a picture of that, we're not saying what would you like. We're assuming the sale of every item on that card. And
Right.
so what we learned is that customers get mad. All I wanted was the weekly mow.
Sure.
Well, you sent the
You didn't
picture back.
communicate that. Yeah.
Yes. And
They
even
didn't.
yesterday, I had some guy like, take it all off the schedule. He said, your ad is deceiving. And I'm
Jeez.
like, I'm so glad that we have them circle what they
Hmm.
want
Right.
and they have their address. And once we get that, we know exactly what they want. We can put it straight on the schedule. And then all we're sending them is a confirmation of service. It's phenomenal. I
I
love
think
it.
that I think that's good for the customer as well, because they might get this and think, "Oh, I need to accept all of this," and not
Right.
really understand what's happening, where now it's saying, "Please circle what you would like,"
Mhm.
or highlight what you would like. Like they know that they can it's like a la carte. They don't have to select.
Yes.
They don't, like, if they accept this, they don't owe us $600, right? Like they can do just the 279 property cleanup.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we changed on there is that it's just for the front yard because obviously if you're doing an Insta quote, you can't see the backyard
Right.
always.
Right.
So those things that we've learned, and that is the way it is at Augusta. We're listening to each other. We're very in tune to the guys in the field.
Hmm.
And one more question, then I'll jump to you and your connection to command. But so, how many recurring customers do you have now?
I think this last month we're still waiting for the max metrics to come out, but I think this last month we ended around 150.
Okay, so
Yeah.
your growth has been exponential. And I think it's a little bit like Mike and I, we started the first year, we had 50, and the second year we had 100, and then 150, and then it just snowballs.
Hmm.
And you start getting customers recommending, and the neighbor of the neighbor, and it goes on from there. So now you have two trucks,
Three.
three trucks,
Yes.
four guys,
Yes.
including you.
Four not including me, so five
Not
including me.
including you. So you're in the field with them and doing
Yes.
estimates? And do
Yes.
you route in your estimates with your jobs?
Yeah, often. So I'll just like, if we're in a neighborhood and I have an estimate in there, I'll do that. Or like if I'm going to be working with a crew member, because a lot of times I'll pair them up two and two, and then sometimes I'll be alone and I'll just go do projects or do a solo mowing route. That way, like if there's estimates that are kind of, because they're kind of coming shotgunned all over the place,
Yeah.
from Google or seeing our trucks, or different things like that, or the one-click emails, they're kind of shotgunned all over the place, and so then I'll just do those on my route.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So can you explain to us a little bit what command is?
Hmm.
And then we'll go into the positive negatives as it's been for you.
Sure. Yeah, command center is like basically our office. It's the office for all of Augusta. They answer our phones. Being a corporate location, 100% inside the system, so they also are able to do, things like create our P&L reports, answer our emails, do all the like email management, like all the admin stuff that typically takes tons of owners' time. That is command center handles all that for me, all the communication with all the clients. So like I never have to actually stop my day and be talking to customers. Like I get to continue working, doing
Mhm.
sales, doing all of that type of stuff throughout the day.
Yeah. So you, as a highly motivated type A person who in the past has managed people, you are going to get much more frustrated than somebody who doesn't really know what's going on and needs a lot of coaching. So some franchisees from the very beginning were actually their coaches.
Hmm.
But with someone
Yes.
like you and high performers, they're on the other side where they're pushing, pushing. They always will push the systems, which is a good thing because
Hmm.
then you have somebody like me on the other end wanting to match that and to make the changes necessary for high performers.
Sure.
And not
And we've
everybody.
seen that recently.
Oh, totally,
Yes.
totally. And so that's the way Mike is. And so when I worked with Mike, it was like all day long. Oh, we need to switch this up, and we need to switch this, and we need to change this now. When
Right.
it was just me, I could do that. I could pivot all day.
Right.
And now, when there's systems, it's very interesting because you have to stay within them, and yet you're like, no, I need this, I want this, and you're
Hmm.
pushing against them. And I know that gets really frustrating for you.
And sometimes I have to remind myself to like slow down a little bit, right? Like the systems are good for everybody in a whole. Um,
Mhm.
and I need to remember that like, it works well for everybody. And there's different things that, I might want to change and whatnot, or might get frustrated, but you know, it's it's a good system and it works because like it's been tested across all of Augusta, and
Yeah,
so and there's like a little bit less of the coaching, and sometimes like you do get a little bit frustrated, but 99.5% of the time it's good. It's like that 0.5% of the time you get a little frustrated, but that's like the same with your employees, like
yeah,
the employees on my team, like they can mow 30 lawns in a day, but then you get the one customer that calls in and complains, and now it's like that just seems like such a big problem, but it's not, because
it's not.
it's the one thing. So
Exactly. Or the one customer that you'll never make happy.
sure, you can, yeah, there's some people you'll just never make happy, but
Yeah. So the good part about that is I'm very in tune to that. So if you're bucking up against the system, maybe the system needs to change.
hmm
And then we come back to the drawing board and we're like, would this be good for everybody? How much can we let it go for Connor and it still
sure,
be within the systems and not
sure,
affect anybody else?
right,
But here's the thing, and a thought process the franchisee or a GM has to think about all the time. Should I pull away from command and have an office person? So if you had an office person and you're driving them like that
hmm
and they're not in the systems, I think it would frustrate you beyond belief because now you're trying to teach the office person and
oh yeah,
tell them why.
right. They might be able to know your business more like acutely,
Yes,
like on a deeper level, and like know like all your clients specifically, like
right.
which ones are the problem childs, right? They'll know them by name, but like that's why we do things the way we do in Augusta, and we take notes on all the clients, and like you can go back and see like what's been happening, and what happens when that office person's sick, or their kid needs to go do this or that, or they're going on vacation, right? Then what do you do? Like then you're back in it, and unless you have like you know a multi-million dollar location, and you need that extra support of like just having
Right.
somebody there all the time, maybe that would make sense. But like if you're doing under $1 million, it just absolutely doesn't make sense to not use command.
Yeah, exactly. If you're wanting to be in growth mode, which you are,
Hmm.
you're really, what is your goal for the rest of this year? What are you trying to reach?
Well, so originally I was trying to hit 500,000 in total revenue this year. That is not going to happen. I massively overshot that one. That was one of my grand, big, great ideas. So I think the new goal is I wanna beat what Chuck did, which I
Oh,
think
that's
he did
good.
298 K in his first year, and I think we're close to that. We're on track. If I can keep growing through the fall, maybe I can do that and be the fastest growing corporate location. But I also want to have a good team. And right now I'm
Yeah.
currently in a spot of like going back to the basics and making sure that everybody's trained up properly. And we're starting to run into, like I mentioned something with that team member earlier, like we're starting to run into where like the negative word of mouth monster will destroy you. And so I want to make sure that like I want to grow organically through word of mouth and different things like
Mm,
that because it's
mhm.
exponential. And like that, I couldn't spend the like with all the money in the world, I couldn't spend, enough to acquire customers as like if I were just doing, you know, great service, getting word of mouth, like which we do great service, but like I want to be that next level of like
Yeah.
getting recommended by people.
For sure, for sure. So big, audacious, hairy goals.
Yes.
We look at people like you, and you are operating a business as if you owned it, and
Hmm.
that will always be your mentality. You'll have the character to do this, and whatever you do, you're going to try to do it the best of your ability.
Hmm.
So, how does Augusta put stuff in place for somebody like you? We don't want to lose you, and we want to give you opportunity to do more and be more in Augusta. What kind of latitude is there for you, and upward mobility for you for the next steps?
So I mean, there's lots of growth in Augusta, and like and I had all these big goals, and even if we're gonna fall short, we're still gonna do something really great, right?
Yeah,
Um, the 3F program is always just there for all employees and GMs, right? And it doesn't matter who you are, as long as you've been with Augusta for 2 years and you have a solid business plan and you're a solid, sound person, you'll be able to open your own locations. So that's always just like a big goal, at the end. Like you can see that coming in 2 years. But then there's also been talks of like potentially other bigger things for me to chew on because there are times right now when like I get kind of bored and I'm like,
yeah,
this is like this. It feels kind of easy. And I know I shouldn't say that. And like it's a big balance to like try to like humble myself and be like, you're not doing anything like Bellingham's doing, $150,000 a month. Your $30,000 is nothing. But then like, and you have to remember that like that's after 10 years,
yes,
of a
yeah,
business. But there's other places to grow. I know they want to continue to open more locations, and other people in Augusta will continue to open more locations, and maybe like regional positions will open up, right? Like a regional manager like Chuck
yeah,
to oversee other GMs, and so there's potential growth there. There's you know personal growth and just helping train like other high level people like other GMs, right? Not
yeah.
just like employees, field laborers and stuff like that.
So, do you see yourself, instead of just branching off, starting your own location? That might not even be challenging enough for you because now you've already done that.
I think
So,
it'll be a piece of cake.
it would be. So maybe that's not a direction you'd want to go, but
Mhm.
maybe for you, you can actually think, okay, if there is a way to have another position like Chuck's, let me go in and start them all.
Right.
And
Yes.
I've already done this and I've done it well, and
Hmm.
get all of these locations, a whole nother section of somewhere
Yeah.
in growth mode, and then move on and do it again.
That's one of the things that was kind of in talks. They were kind of telling me about. I didn't know if I could mention that, but uh, doing like a starter role, right, where
Yeah.
like I can just launch them and train up my replacement, and then in like 2, 3, 4 months, get a location to 100 customers, fill up one full mowing truck, get them a month booked out for projects, and then hand it
Mhm.
off to somebody. I think that also would help people. Like I'd be doing it probably corporately for Mike, but like could also like take that and help show fran-
Yeah.
franchisees how to do that, because that beginning period where like you have a new GM that's trying to learn everything while the business is the most vulnerable in its beginning stages with no revenue coming in and the most amount of expenses, like
Mhm.
expense to revenue ratio, like that's the most vulnerable period. And if you can speed past that and get it to a point where it's at like 20,000 a month, just able to maintain itself, like I think that's something that I could excel at.
Yeah, and a good way for you to be the person to model this or to trial it and see if it works is you start this one the way you want, then you start this one and you start 5 the way you want. You've already built the
Hmm.
confidence of all of these GMs, and
Hmm.
then you can pull out and become the regional manager of those
Exactly.
5. And then you can get another regional manager and you can, like, big picture, if
Hmm.
you do that over and over, and then we can perfect that model. It's just unlimited what we can do.
Oh yeah, and I mean, there was no regional position a year ago, right? Like
Exactly.
I've talked to Chuck about this. Like he's like, I was just a GM. He was a GM for 2 years, and now there's this, and he's overseeing, 7 of Mike's locations. So like, it's crazy what can happen in a year's time, So like, maybe we'll do a follow up interview in 2 years, and it will be completely different, right?
Yep,
You
and
never know.
even this month, like in the last month, we're like, how can we retain GMs? How can we change up the pay structure?
Yep.
And it's just never ending. And no one, what I've learned is any of us that had went and started our own businesses, I could do that. Lee could do that. Chuck could
Hmm.
do that. But together, what we can build is so
Bigger.
much more substantial. So if you could go run your little lawn care business under some other name brand, but
Hmm.
you with us, uh,
Right.
you grow so much more, we grow so much more, and having your input, each of our input is so powerful.
Right. And don't get me wrong, the ultimate goal is, I think, 3 executive models. I want to own 18 locations. It's just when I like play out the numbers of what I
Yeah,
think the size will be and what the distributions would be to me, it's a really nice number, a number I would like.
yeah,
Um, that is the ultimate goal. And then, I would love to be like 50 years old and not never have to report to work and just be making a
right.
couple million a year, and all I
And
have to
that
do is
is
talk to
doable.
like all I have to do is talk to like 3 regional managers,
Right.
like they just report to me, like we have a meeting once a week, and I can just be on a beach somewhere. That would be sweet. But like I got to get there first. And if I think if I do this starter thing and I, let's say, launch like another executive model, another 5 or 6 locations, become the regional of that, I can see how that whole process plays out. And then by the time it's time for me to open executive models, or start opening my own franchise locations, it'll be a breeze. It's
Yeah,
just simply, I know that I need to save up the capital to just speed past that beginning portion.
yeah,
The
yeah. So
slow growth in
even
the beginning.
even somebody like Marcus, he was a GM, and he said, I could keep doing this forever,
Right.
or I could know what it's like to go from nothing all by myself. And
Hmm.
that's what he's trialing now. So you're saying you would help build all these systems, build all these locations, become the regional manager. And at the same time, would you be trying, you think that you'd want to start owning your own as you got the capital?
Um,
Or
maybe
maybe
I
further down the line?
I know, so I know I can't be a GM and own a location,
Okay.
right? If I was like at a high corporate level, like you or Lee or Chuck could own a location, is my
Right.
understanding.
Yeah.
So maybe if I got to that point and I had the funds to just pay a GM to open that location for me, maybe that's something I would do. But um, yeah, I don't know, because at some point it becomes a lot, like, to just keep launching them myself. And like if
Yes.
I've launched another 5 or 6 locations by then, like am I gonna want to do it an eighth time and go
You're
through
gonna
the
be
ringer?
bored.
Because it's it's very boring, monotonous work, like in the beginning,
Yes.
and it's just tedious. Like it's just, kick after kick, and you just kind of got to eat it in the beginning and just power through that.
Yeah. So you have big visions, and I don't think they're unrealistic. I think they're completely doable
Thanks.
because Augusta changes like
Yeah.
that, and we adapt to what we have vision for.
Right.
And so others looking at you, though, a 15-year-old who's running his lawn care business, he thinks that's impossible. Like he'll never be there. But where were you at 15? You know?
Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing with my life. Like
Yes. So
it.
what would you say to them? They have their little lawn care business. They don't think they're anybody. Would you tell them to focus, hone in and focus on school or their skills? Or would you tell them, like, take what these knowledgeable people on YouTube are sharing and devour smart people's content? How would you advise them if they're that young?
Exactly. Just learn everything. YouTube University. It's a real thing. That's where I
Yep.
learned a lot of my stuff. Alex Hermosi and Mike Andes. Like seriously, all day long. Like just watching those two. Um, you can never know enough. Like you can't. Like there's always more to learn, but also don't have like you know don't under implement things. You need to be implementing things, right? And
Yeah.
so like my advice to like a 15-year-old would be like I had no clue what I was doing when I was 15. Legit like no, I don't know. Um I was just going day to day. Like 5 months ago I wasn't here. Like I didn't think that I would be here.
Right.
Like
Right.
3 months ago I didn't think I would be here. We'd be talking about this starter role. Like I was worried about getting the work done for that week, you know? Like 5
Exactly.
months ago I thought I was killing it because I signed like 4 grand in snow contracts for the winter.
Yeah.
Um which I refunded all of, so that sucked. Had to send that all back to move down here because we didn't have any snow by then. But I thought I was killing it doing that, and like
Yeah.
we're gonna do almost 10 times that this month in in mowing and in small projects. So it's just like just keep skill stacking. You learn one thing and then you learn the next. And
Yeah.
like on those coaching cards, we have like the personal capacity line level. I keep
Hmm.
moving mine up. I really think like I'm a multi-million dollar like personal capacity. I love to believe that, but like right now,
Hmm.
like last month it was like $50,000. The month prior to that it was 50,000. Last
Hmm.
month it was 75,000. Like I think I keep learning the skills to move up. Like I know one day I'll be like a multi-million dollar personal capacity, but I don't think I
Hmm.
have the skills to get me like I don't know that I could genuinely jump into Bellingham and run, 150, $200,000 month business. So yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if I have the skills to manage like that, where like in the medical job, like a lot of those people were self-motivated getting, wanted to get into med school. So they were really just doing it for resume stuff. But like lawn care can be kind of tough sometimes.
Can you touch on that for a minute? So they know that you're not alone and you're not constantly trying to direct your own self. Can you explain a little bit about the coaching role that you have with Chuck? How often do you guys meet? What do you talk about? How does that work?
Chuck and I talk all the time. We have like official meetings once a week. That's the regional being with the GMs once a week, and then we have a GM call every Friday, 5 to 30 minutes of just genuine like or the general stuff for all of the locations.
Okay.
So we all hop on, and then we can all see each other. Uh, that's kind of how the coaching goes, and then it's like just bouncing ideas off of him and like double checking that we're on the right path here and him just steering us back into our lane when
Mm.
when we start to get off track a little bit.
So these coaching cards, they kind of show the barometer of what? How many things do they measure?
So as far as the capacity goes, it's three different things. It's the labor capacity, so what like you and your employees can actually do. What could you possibly produce, working a normal week, right? Not like 100-hour weeks, but you and your employees' labor capacity. Then there's asset capacity, which is the trucks. We started with 2 trucks, then our asset capacity got increased because we got a third truck, so 2 mowing trucks and one project truck. And then the third capacity is personal, so asset, labor, personal.
And so, why would they even have a personal capacity in there? Is it because people are so good at the other two after a while and they need to be pushed as a person?
That and sometimes you grow past your personal capacity. Some like there there are a lot of people where like a solo lawn care business or like you and one other person, that's what makes sense. Like that's what you can handle, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that might be profitable for you and it might make you help you live your best life, right? But then also I think it also helps people like me realize like, hey, like I need to get this up to the next level. Right now I only have these skills. I want to keep skill stacking and learn these other ones.
That is really awesome. So there's franchisees that don't even have these phone calls. So they have the opportunity of to have them. The growth model gets them once a month with a coach,
Yes.
and
Yep.
the solo model gets them once every other month. And so, how important do you think it is for each franchisee to be having these coaching calls?
Oh, super critical. Recently I've actually had a couple franchisees actually talking with me because like they know I got so lucky being able to be under a coach and talk with them daily or weekly,
Yeah.
actually have a
Mhm.
formal meeting every week. Like, I'm getting 4 times the learning that a normal, franchisee would get to, bounce things off of a coach.
Right.
People that don't take advantage of that, I don't understand why. Even if you're inside the systems and you feel like everything's going great, just check in and know how things are going, because it can't be going perfect forever. And when things start to fall apart, you want somebody that has like a base on that. And so, even though I have Chuck, and Chuck fully agrees with this, I think I've only done it once so far. Every like 3 months or 4 months, I'm gonna schedule a coaching call with Lee. So I've done one, and just to kind of check in with him and see how things are going and get a different opinion. Somebody that's
Great.
also not here,
Yeah.
blinded by things like, because Chuck and I are in it every day right here. Where Lee, he's all the way across the country, and so he can see 1,000-foot view for us.
So you get to operate like an owner in that respect too. You can schedule your calls with other coaches.
Yep. Yes. Right now there, and I try not to take up Lee's time. I'm not gonna like, you know, GMs of franchisees locations. They get coaching calls as well as the franchisee owner. So, but I try not to take up Lee's time because I know I have Chuck here. But
Yeah.
from time to time, like every 4 months, I want that 1,000-foot view.
Right. So we'll start to wrap up here, but this is one of those few times where you actually have a way that you can share with others on a platform, all business owners,
Right.
all young people. What would you like to share to business owners in general and GMs and employees, like all across the board? You have had a lot of experience in life, more than people typically do at your age, and it shouldn't be something that you shy away from. It's a gift that you can give to other people, all the experience you have already. So when you listen to so much content now and take in so much, you do have something to share. So what would you want to share?
It'll just be a quote. Like, if I could share one thing, this is like what's really kind of, I think, gotten me to where I am. Besides like the hard work and drive, it's just like there's days that have it's long hours. The quote is, I don't do my best, I do what's required, and sometimes what's required is better than my best. And I
Oh,
think that's something to live
that's
by.
good.
Is like, sometimes you have to do better than your best, right?
Yeah.
Like, you need to make your best better, because what is required is more.
Yeah. And that's to take that and embody that quote is a heavy responsibility, really,
Yeah.
to have the guts and the discipline to take that on.
Yeah.
Wow. I think you better read it one more time.
Um, to I don't do my best, I do what is required. Uh, sometimes what is required is better than my best. I almost forgot it there. I
Super
wrote I
good.
wrote it on our board at the shop
That's
for
good.
all the other guys to see. I think they think it's cheesy.
Who cares?
Right.
I'll think of it in those low moments when they
Right.
can't push anymore.
Sure.
Like all of us will. I'll put that quote down too. I
Yeah.
have quotes all over my house, so that one's going on a card too.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a great thing to close on. And I
Yeah.
appreciate your time today. And I know that everything that you've said will really benefit a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, Liz. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You have a wonderful day.
All right. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yep.